Yeah, today's conversation, this is the sports conversation, so I think we're going to be light on AI, light on some of the other topics we talked about today. The reason I'm up here with Dave is I'm at ALLCITY. You might know us in Chicago as CHGO, kind of innovating in the local sports coverage space. So we follow brands like Wilson and kind of keep track of the trends. And so excited to talk about how you guys have used partnerships, how you've done something, with these massive sports properties, and how you're kind of innovating for Wilson. Why don't we start off, give a little bit about your background and sort of how you got to where you are.
Sure. It's working. All right. Thank you. Great to be here. So I sit on the brand team at Wilson and lead our global partnerships team as well as our collaborations team. So those are two separate teams, but from a partnerships perspective, I oversee all things related to our what we consider our brand partnerships or brand-led partnerships. So those are NBA and NFL primarily, as well as our athlete relationships, influencers, media, content, really anything that touches those large-scale global brand partnerships. And then our collaborations team is focused on how we embed the Wilson brand within culture. So how are we creating brand partnerships that stand out, drive earned media, just create some buzz within culture. So that's skinny on my role right now. Prior to this, I was at Amazon Prime Video on the Thursday Night Football marketing team, helping to launch the streaming platform's very first NFL streaming partnership, and then spent a bit of time at American Express leading our global partnerships, primarily with the NBA and athletes as well, and then was around FanDuel during its initial daily fantasy sports heyday, back when sports betting was taboo, and now look at it.
None of those turned out okay.
None of those.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned, so that's definitely where I want to start. You mentioned NFL and NBA.
Yeah.
Two powerhouses in North American sports in terms of scale, attention share, all that good stuff. I'd love to hear about your NFL. Let's start with NFL.
Sure.
What you guys are doing there. You've been a long-time partner, and sort of how you're using that as a lever across the entire business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, fun fact, since 1941, every point in the NFL has been scored with a Wilson football. That was news to me when I first started, so it's always a fun one I like to throw out. And the long-time partnership, I think, one, has been incredibly successful for us from a revenue perspective, sales, et cetera, of our footballs, and has helped to cement us within culture. But I think a really big part of that partnership has been how do we stick out as a brand as much as we stick out as the football supplier, right? And I think that really leads nicely into the culture aspect. And what we like to say is that we're trusted from youth to pro. So whether you are 10 years old or you're 40 years old or 70 years old, you know Wilson because of its connection to the NFL. That's kind of our bread and butter, something that we really rally around. So it's been a huge catalyst, like I said, for business success. A lot of people know us for tennis and golf, et cetera. But from a team sports perspective, football really has been the mainstay. And we're excited to continue activating with them. We have season starting here in a month. We'll be heading out to Kansas City for opening night, which I think is the 7th. So very exciting and looking forward to that.
It's awesome. Obviously, from a brand perspective, like you said, it's created a deep association and sort of it brings to life all those brand attributes. How does that also filter into product?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to my point, right? From looking at it from two different lenses. So from a product lens and a brand lens. And so for us, our brand campaign for the NFL is where there's football, there's Wilson. Right? You see us anywhere, and I think that plays nicely with youth to pro and that aspect. So what we like to do is build out our entire brand campaign. We rally around that campaign, and throughout the season, we identify the moments that are important to us throughout the NFL. So whether that's kickoff, global games, which this year I believe are London and Frankfurt, so 5 in total. It continues to go up every year, which is great to see the global aspect of the NFL and football in general. And then we kind of strategically place our marketing and media bets based on where we find those moments in time that are important to us. So whether that's our own media dollars from a paid perspective, whether that's tapping into the NFL contractual spends that we have working with our athletes to try to bolster our presence within the league. And so that's how we take a look at what matters from a brand perspective. And then when we drill down, there's that product layer as well, right? And coming from my background, the product side is a little new to me because I've always worked at companies that were very service-oriented companies, and I was really promoting an individual product, like a SKU. Yeah. It was always brand and service, right? And so this one's interesting, and it's been a great challenge for me to kind of sink my teeth into. But from that product perspective, we have the Duke, which is the official football of the NFL, most widely known as our global kind of go-to as it relates to our product set. But then we create products that are very team-specific. So how do we promote those in each of the individual markets, leveraging athletes on various teams to promote those team products as well. Products that revolve around causes, whether it's crucial catch, et cetera, and then developing our own kind of custom products as well that are either collaborations or things that are just hot in the market during that time. How do we pounce on that and create a product that we think people will like? One product I left off was actually flag. So we have a new flag football initiative over the past year or so that we've been working on. We primarily sold them through our retailers. We're actually bringing that in-house now and selling D2C. So they're NFL flag products, so the flags, the ball, pennies, et cetera. And that is a global launch that we're looking to move forward with the NFL. So really exciting, and I think a really diverse set of products.
And did you see a boost in that coming out of the Super Bowl commercial, which was obviously all about flag, or was that something where you guys had already been invested in the space, saw the data, saying that, hey, contactless is kind of growing? How did that come to be?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing to have that partnership with the NFL, so you got a little bit of insight on what's to come. So we've been working on it for a while, but I think the Super Bowl commercial last year, which I'm sure everyone saw, was incredibly impactful, powerful for the league, and really cemented itself as a leader and a driver of the flag initiative globally, especially amongst the youth and amongst girls in particular, right? And so that's an area that we're looking to capitalize on as well, and kind of equip as many young boys and girls with flag football equipment that they need to kind of connect with the game in a way in which maybe they wouldn't if they didn't play football actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It opens up a whole new segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'd love. Do you want to talk about any of your Super Bowl activations or anything sort of in that space? Because I know you guys do a ton experientially, and you had the big activation in Phoenix this year.
We do, yeah. So every year we activate at ALLCITY, which is the major kind of activation zone at Super Bowl, and it's crazy because we do it every year, but every year it seems to get amazing pickup, and it just shows how much we still need to educate the world on how our products are made. So we have an experience at our large booth within NFLX where we actually bring our factory team from Ada, Ohio. So all of our NFL footballs are made of genuine leather and handcrafted, hand-sewn, curated by real people in Ada, Ohio. So we actually fly a team out from Ada and set up a really awesome space at NFLX where they are actually creating footballs for people in front of their eyes, right? Everything from the 2 pieces of leather and, create the process from there ultimately, right? So it's a really interesting process, and I think for people that don't know, it's kind of cool to just be a part of that and get to see how it's made, and also a really rewarding experience for people from factory to come out and be a part of that. So that's always a huge driver. I think the addition of TikTok has exploded that particular piece because it's a very nice TikTok video.
Yeah, TikTok friendly.
From that, very friendly. So we saw some nice pickup from that out in Phoenix. And then we do a lot of crossover as well. So in Phoenix, as we were talking about just before, we're also big in golf. So we had a lot of our golfers who were playing at Waste Management. And we also had our Super Bowl experience at the same time. So our brand and communications teams were very busy during that time, bouncing back and forth between both of them. So that's usually kind of the NFL experience and the big one that gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it seems like an incredible portfolio, touching on a lot of different things and finding ways to use it. So kudos to you guys. Let's shift a little bit. WNBA and NBA, also a massive partner. I know that Wilson was the official ball for a long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah.
So, why don't we talk a little bit about what that was like, why you decided to come back, and I know that sort of predated your time at Wilson, but I'm sure you've had some insights into that and sort of how the initial years of that partnership have gone.
Yeah, so Wilson was the original official basketball of the NBA for a handful of years, and then Spalding came in for about 30 years. We don't want to talk about them. And then we got the business back in the middle of the worst year ever, which was 2020. So I can only imagine, and I feel for a lot of my colleagues, to go through that transition, especially on the product and development side during a very tough year. So so we're the official ball again and have been. We're going into our third season now. The NBA, I think, has some similarities to the NFL, but is also very different, right? I think from a participation perspective, globally, basketball is just much more heavily participated, easier access, et cetera. So that has been a huge catalyst for business success from a bottom line perspective for us globally. And obviously we're touting the game balls and all the team balls, very similar to the NFL side in that sense. But the globality, I think, is one thing. And also the second piece, I think the NBA does really well is create a great culture around basketball that transcends just the game, right? So you have artists and designers, people in fashion, music, etc. It's this incredible community of creators and curators, and so that has provided a great opportunity for us to grow our brand in addition to growing the products and all of that we make, right? So the NBA does a really good job of that. So both partnerships are global, and the NBA is one I think that we're really excited to have back because it's been a huge driver all around.
Yeah, and I know it. I'd love to talk about it if you have some insights on it. But obviously, when there was the ball switch, there was some negative feedback from the players, right? They've been playing with the same ball for some of these veterans, 10, 12 years, right? And even the new guys, maybe they grew up playing with other balls. So I think it's incredibly impressive how you don't hear, that story was over within a few months. So how did you all navigate that and still kind of push forward, knowing that you had this incredible asset, but you were facing a real challenge because of the pro feedback?
Yeah, everyone loves to hate on something.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, credit to our product and our R&D teams who really made it a point to try to make the ball as close to the look and the feel, the texture, et cetera, as what they've been playing with, so as to not kind of create this huge negative reaction and sentiment. So you're always going to have people that want to say it wasn't great or it's still not great. Can't please everyone. But I think one opinion that we cared about was the NBA's opinion from their product and on-court teams, and so we got their approval. And over time, it's not like scoring has dramatically come down since the change of the ball at all. Yeah. So it's great, right? I think from that perspective, the blowback, if you will, was fairly limited, and we mitigated that as much as possible, but not from a comms or PR exercise. It was more of just creating great products that the players actually enjoy playing with. So kudos to them.
Yeah, don't try to overmanage it. Just respond to
Well,
it.
and that process too. I know we talked about this, but launching during COVID, normally we would bring our product and equipment into a gym and get tons of players to come by and do practice sessions and all the feedback sessions. The team actually had to ship balls to each of the players, or as many players as they possibly could, to their homes, because we weren't allowed to gather and get feedback that way. So it was a much more laborious process than normal, but they still made it happen. And it's been great so far.
That's been incredible. So, you talked about the globality of the NBA and also launching during this really difficult time where I think all of us were looking for human connection, and the campaign you guys came out with really hit those notes.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about the Bonded by Ball campaign?
Sure.
I think it was pretty brilliant. It came to life in a lot of unique ways.
Yeah, appreciate that. So our basketball campaign globally, again, from youth to pro and everything that we do that touches basketball, is called Bonded by Ball. And it came out of the insight that basketball is a global unifier and a bonding element or vehicle for people all across the world from all ages, backgrounds, nationalities, etc. So that's been an incredible platform for us to communicate our message, because at the end of the day, my job, especially in partnerships, is to try to humanize the brand and create a connection with our customers that goes beyond just the product. Right? The product's great, and we love being known as the product supplier and trusted product supplier of all these leagues and athletes. But at the end of the day, our products can only grow if our brand continues to grow and cements itself within culture and conversation on a daily basis. And so our leagues help us do that in a really big way. So that platform, I think, has been incredible for us, and it still is our campaign. And we find ways to iterate on it every season, and how do we integrate athletes into that mix, our experiential activations, etc. So it's been great.
And I know you all just partnered the two WNBA players, I believe, first two on the roster, right?
Yeah, so it's been a while, but we signed two WNBA players, Kalia Copper from hometown Chicago Sky,
Nice.
And Azrae Stevens from the Los Angeles Sparks. So really excited to have them on board. I'm proud to say that we've reached parity with men and women athletes, which is a really exciting feat for us, something that was a point of emphasis from our perspective, that we wanted to make sure we were representing both sides equally. So we finally have achieved that, and we're excited to get them on shoots and all that. So excited to get them integrated within our Bonded by Ball campaign as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great. It's something, obviously, being on the media side, we're seeing that with enhanced coverage and more investment. So yeah, it's awesome to see. We obviously can't, I said we wouldn't talk about AI, but if we're talking NBA, we do have a 3D printing piece of the conversation. So, what you guys did at All-Star was incredible. I know we have a short video as well. For those who maybe aren't familiar with it, I think it'll be really cool to see. I know some of it was new to me. So, yeah, why don't we get into that? What you guys did at All-Star this year, and talk through that.
Sure. So it was 3 months into the start of this job when the R&D team and product team came to me and said, hey, we've been working on a 3D printing technology for the last 5 years, and we feel like we're finally ready to show it to the world. Here you go.
Like, great. Yeah, no risk for you at all.
Start? Yeah. So, I mean, first off, incredibly exciting, right? How cool is it? And you'll see it here in a second, but it's incredibly just cool and innovative to see. But when you learn what goes behind or what's involved in that process, it really is incredibly complex and demanding. So I'm really excited that our teams were able to kind of figure that out. But the task was, for me, from a marketing perspective, how do we promote this in a way that feels relatable, innovative, differentiated, kind of this like wow factor that makes people's heads turn ultimately. And so through some conversation internally and with our friends at the NBA, we aligned on trying to insert it into the dunk contest that happens during All-Star Weekend, so back in February, for a variety of reasons. But as we thought about what's going to provide us with maybe the most minimal risk, inserting this into a live sporting event, we felt like 3-point, there's has to travel a long distance, or the passing drills and all that. Let's do dunk. We feel like it's going to be the safest option. So we had to partner with one of the dunkers. So we worked with KJ Martin. For those who don't know, Kenyon Martin's son, NBA legend. So he was on the Rockets at the time in his second season, I think, so relatively young player, and had to call him up and his agent and say, hey, we have a really cool opportunity, and we'd love for you to showcase it to the world. You'll be the face of the campaign. You'll help us kind of launch this. And through some conversation, we aligned that this is a really great opportunity for both sides. So we flew him out. We actually flew down to Houston, brought the ball with us, shot a lot of content behind the scenes, which was very cool. And then we're planning for how exactly we're going to execute this stunt. Came to the dunk contest, actually, right? So the team who built the ball also built this incredible stand for the ball, where it had like smoke and fog machines and whatever when you opened it up. It's pretty cool, actually. And we also went to the factory, the facility where the printing happened. We shot a ton of content there and interviewed a lot of people behind the scenes. And I think from my perspective, the world of innovation within sports, from an equipment perspective, was just totally blown out of the water, right? There's no limit to what can happen in that space, and it was over my head for a majority of it. I'm just a marketing guy, so I had to make it sound cool. But the designers, the engineers behind this spent so much time and energy making it happen, which was really great. So got to the dunk contest. He made the dunk. The ball didn't explode, and we were thrilled. And so kudos to our teams. Internally at the NBA, we had to work with AT&T because they were the huge dunk contest sponsor at the time. So they were very grateful that they allowed us to kind of take over for a second and integrate that. So it was really a team effort and the true testament of partnership and relationships, because none of that happens.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving pieces.
A lot of moving pieces,
Yeah.
And also very limited knowledge from my end on what 3D printing is.
Yeah.
So
Limited knowledge. I got you there. We do that all day. Yeah. One thing that came up in this morning's conversation around Super Bowl actually was how so much of the value for a Super Bowl spot is in the pre-release, right? The buzz leading up to it.
Yeah.
You guys took a different approach.
We did.
So yeah, why don't we? I'd love to unpack what was the thought process there? How did you decide to just let this happen organically?
Yeah, so we did not launch any marketing prior to KJ holding the ball on live TV. And the thought process was, it was a gut reaction. The background thought process was, if we release it, media cycle moves way too quickly, people will likely forget about it, it gets rolled through Twitter and Instagram and all that, and we end up with a ball that goes on TV that no one has any knowledge of, right, because they missed all the pre, right? And especially on a night like that where people are constantly on Twitter, Instagram, social media, right?
Major brand activations.
Yeah, right? And so the thought was, okay, let's keep it quiet until he actually does the dunk, and then do a mass release on all of our channels. So deployed our social, we had PR embargoed for like a week before that, and so had articles ready to go. Social from the athletes' channels, the NBA, it was just a full-on blitz of the market, and it turned out to be incredible. I mean, traffic to Wilson.com was the most that we've ever seen in that small period of time. And I think the fun part too is that even days, weeks, months after the dunk contest, we're still seeing traffic back to that landing page because people are curious about what it is. And I'm sometimes confused as to how they're getting there ultimately, because we're not even pushing anything out anymore. Relating to that, I get my econ team saying, hey, we got like 10,000 people visited this in the last day. I'm like, wow, that's great. So, and I think that's a testament to the way conversations and news moves throughout social, and especially TikTok now, where you have individual content creators and curators who are pushing this out on a daily basis because they want to grow their followership. If they have something really cool to talk about, it's even better, right? So it's been great, and I've been super impressed with what we've seen, and hopefully more to come.
Love it. Yeah, and I want to make sure we also touch on the other part of your title, collaborations. You know, so maybe take a little more forward-looking approach here. But it seems like the Wilson brand is evolving, right? And you guys are doing some different stuff than maybe historically. So I'd love to hear about what you're doing there. I know you can't share all of it, but what you can share, I think, would be really interesting to see how you're getting a little more into lifestyle and culture and sort of rounding out your obviously like core sports, utility.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first and foremost, we sell sportswear now and apparel, so let me know. Or don't, actually, don't. But that's been one, I think, big addition to the product set to get us out of the just a hard goods business, right? And so now we have something that we can rally around where we could outfit a tennis player from head to toe, right? We sell tennis shoes, we sell socks, we sell skirts or shorts, tops, hats, etc. So we're really going 360 in that sense from a product perspective. But on the collaboration side, again, to my point earlier, it's trying to embed the brand and culture in ways that we haven't done or tried before. Yeah. So over the last year alone, we've done collaborations with Tiffany, with OVO, with Tom Brady's supplement brand, TV12. And so we've seen a desire and an appetite, obviously in the marketplace. Collaborations have been around for a while, but relatively new for Wilson over the last couple of years. And I think what we're noticing now is that collaborations maybe are becoming overdone in a way, right? Like everyone wants to do a collaboration, and it's kind of the same thing over and over again. So what we're trying to do now, moving forward, and it's been a big help with our 2024 strategy, is rallying around a singular theme for the year, right? And how do all of our collaborations align to that theme so that consumers can see, oh, I saw this collaboration, and I saw this one, and I can get how they make sense and understand what they're rallying around and supporting. And as big as it is for the product itself, it's even bigger for the story, right? And so now we're not getting into collaborations unless the marketing story is right. Making a t-shirt collab or a ball collab is great. We can do a million of those, right? Yeah. But if it's not in support of a global or bigger story that we're trying to tell as a brand, we're kind of shying away from that moving forward. So it's just taking a more strategic approach to how we work with other brands and showcase our brand and culture first and foremost. So I'm really excited about the potential that we have on the collaboration side. We get tons of requests to collaborate, which is great, and we're also reaching out to brands that we really want to talk to and collaborate with in the future about.
Yeah, that's great. We only have a few minutes left, so let me ask you kind of what are you keeping an eye on over the next few years? Emerging properties, trends in sports. Are we going to all be talking pickleball next year? Like, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, well, we're already talking pickleball, which is great. We're huge in paddle as well. I know it's a bit more of a European, more global sport and interest for people, but paddle is big as well. Look, I think from a Wilson perspective, I'm really excited about growing our brand, and I think that is becoming first and foremost across all of our business units, not just basketball, football, but tennis and golf and pickle and you name it, because we can only grow as much as our brand grows and cements itself within culture and conversation. So selfishly, I'm really excited about that. In terms of trends and new things necessarily, I think you're seeing a new sport pop up like every other month at this point, right? But rest assured that we'll be involved in as much as we possibly can. So I'm really excited about that. We're building a new football factory in Ada, Ohio, which I mentioned. So brand new facility for the workers there, which we're really excited about. And then I think the importance and dominance of women's sports is something that we're really keeping an eye on. Our investment with the two athletes that we have on the WNBA side and our WNBA partnership as well, which is really valuable to us, but also looking at what we can do with this new class and generation of college athletes kind of getting into the professional world, right? With the really exciting March Madness, NCAA tournament.
Opportunities there.
A lot of opportunities, but also just understanding the value of women's sports and not just investing to invest because we think it's the right thing, investing because it's good business and it's a proper vehicle to promote our brands, promote the athletes. It's something that is both meaningful and profitable at the end of the day, which I think more and more people are realizing.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I do want to play the video.
Let's do it. Let's end on that. I like it. Clicker's right behind you.
Clicker's behind me.
Yeah.
Just the middle.
Got it.
Before it changes everything. Before trial and error and breakthrough happen. Someone had to ask the question, what if it's possible? Because it seems impossible. A basketball made of powder and lasers. In a place like the basketballs we've always known. That bounces without air. Wilson asked the question. Introducing the Wilson Airness prototype. A ball that takes everything we know and reaches for something beyond.
Cool. So hopefully you'll see a little bit more from that ball